This video is sponsored by Into the AM.
So, you're poor and you don't have any skill. Don't worry, I got you covered. Especially you, Steve. Today I'm going to attempt to build a 90s retro fantasy village. I'm going to do the entire build using stuff I have at home. So any one of you guys can follow along. And with that also, I guess we're gonna figure out that if I have a game in about 12 hours, how many fantasy buildings can I actually finish before the game starts? So bring out your tools, let's have some fun crafting. So what I'm gonna use in this build is old popsicle sticks and coffee stirrers. We got some toothpick, we have some old cardboard boxes, these are gonna be vital, and finally some XPS foam leftover bits. And that's pretty much it. Back in the 90s, Games Workshop used to encourage this. They had entire books covering on how to make your own fancy terrain. It's a little bit different now. Obviously, they are a publicly traded company and need to sell more products. So instead of showing you how to build terrain, they're selling it. They also had a lot of paper terrain back then. The stuff that you could punch from a cardboard, glue it together, and in just a few minutes you would have an entire gaming table worth of terrain. In the 5th edition Start Collecting set, Perilous Quest, Tears of Isha, and Gorka Morka, just to mention a few. One of the coolest one of all time the Games Workshop did was even before they really started with Warhammer Fantasy and 40k, and that was Bloodbath at Orc's Drift from 1985. It's a book I've never come across in physical form, but it was a campaign set, a box with some terrain pieces, and of course a rule set for how to play Bloodbath at Orc's Drift. And the buildings that came along were pretty damn cool. I've kind of found photos on the internet from people selling that set, and I've been able to extract the shapes of the parts, remake them a little bit, and scale them up so they will fit with today's miniatures a bit better than 1985's miniatures. So let's continue to get at this so we get some nice templates to make the most epic fantasy houses you've ever seen. Let's do it. So guys, we got all of the stencils cut out, and now it's time to finally transfer these to cardboard. I think we're gonna have some awesome looking houses. And this only took like 30 minutes, so we got some time. With all of the cardboard parts stenciled and cut out, I think we're ready to start gluing the buildings together. Okay, so the houses are finally glued together. I think I've spent a total of 3 hours so far. And now comes the fun part to actually make these cardboard boxes look like real houses. I'm just gonna start with one beam in the middle and then just add things as I see fit until I feel like I'm done with the buildings. When I got started with Warhammer, I did so on a budget. So what I used to do was every time I visited a coffee shop, I used to ask if like, can I have a bunch of these and bring home, I do some hobby stuff with them. And every time they were super kind and said yes. So you can find these for free if you're just asking kindly enough. So I had a brilliant idea that I kind of want to have these twigs to represent sort of logs. So it kind of looks like an old cabin or something. So I guess I'm gonna have to cut these up, like 100 of these pieces. So let's do that. But first, let me share you my knowledge about this week's sponsor, Into the AM. You might have noticed throughout this video and throughout many other videos that I use these pretty awesome looking graphic t-shirts. Into the AM is a brand that focuses on making high quality premium apparel. And what I really like about this is the fit, because I am like 6'4", that's like almost 2 meters long, and I have a really big problem finding long t-shirts, but these do not have that problem. And right now you can look as fashionable as I do by taking advantage of Into the AM's bundle deals. So So you can get 3 of these awesome t-shirts for only $60. If that's not a good deal, I don't know what is. But maybe you like more basic t-shirts? If that's the case, you get 3 for $49.95. And even better, if you click the link down below and use the code that they gave for Squidmar audience, then you get 10% off the entire purchase. Now let's get back to building buildings.
I'm not super happy with how this is looking. I'm thinking I'm just gonna skip this, use more of these. It's probably gonna be cool anyway, so let's stick to that.
In the old prints of Bloodbath at Orc's Drift, you can see that the tower has these windows at the bottom part. I do believe that these are archers' windows, so I think I'll bring out the Dremel. As I said, I'll bring out the Dremel to drill out some nice looking windows. The first door I built with thicker sticks, but I figured that I do want to have some variation in the different wood parts. So for the rest of the buildings, I cut up these coffee stirrers in half. And I do all of that by hand and eye, not using any measurement sticks or support tools. This is going to make them look really handmade, almost like driftwood. Roofing seemed to be the bane of hobby builders' existence, so I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. I'm going to cut out stripes from the cardboard and then just cut these small dents in them to kind of make them feel like shingles. And now I can just copy this template and then add these overlapping so that it looks like they've been added like single shingles, but overlapping one another in an uneven pattern.
I'm actually very happy how this is looking, so let's fix some more of these tiles and fix the roofs. I'm kind of happy with this house. I think it looks amazing. But I want to do something different for this roof. I'm going to try to add just PVA glue and coconut fiber. This is the kind of stuff that you get from IKEA if you don't have it, where usually you have it for plants. But yeah, I'm gonna add that and hopefully it's gonna look a bit like mossy roof like they used to have back in Fantasyland time. Let's try it. So the houses are kind of looking done, but this area here that's gonna be painted white, I want to get some texture there to make it feel more like plaster or putty or whatever it's called in English. So I'm going to use just PVA glue and I've got some beach sand from the ocean. It's super fine, so it's probably just gonna add a little bit of a fine texture. I think that's gonna be nice. Look who's back! It's my man Lucas! So I got a mission for Lucas. This one is actually starting to look really good. We have these XPS foam bits and we're going to create some plateaus for some of these. As you can see here. And we're gonna make this look like rock. So that's gonna be Lucas' mission for today. And when that is done, it's time to paint it.
Yeah, and I'm actually an expert on this subject, so this is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, good luck.
We're just cutting up 2 old parts of XPS foam we have at home. If you don't have this pink insulation foam, then you can probably just go by a hardware store and ask for a leftover bit. Or maybe you know someone who works as a carpenter that have some that they can let you have. And we're just using regular breakaway knives, no fancy cutter, no anything. You can do all of this at home with tools you have at home. And with that done, we can start adding rock patterns. We're using a regular ballpoint pen to create the different tiles and rocks on the surfaces. We then want to protect these XPS foam bits because obviously XPS foam is somewhat brittle. So we're adding a layer of PVA glue mixed with some black ink, and that's also gonna work as sort of our primer. So the buildings are done. We finally have our village unpainted, and we've done so without spending a single dollar on the entire build. All of this took me a total of 12 hours. The wood parts took a lot longer than I thought it would. I guess it can be kind of difficult to finish it in one day. I guess we have to paint them to actually see how long time it's gonna take. And obviously it's impossible to go out in the woods and find paint, kind of, sort of. So I'm going to use whatever paints I have at home. If you don't have the paints we use, you can probably just buy hobby paints at a dollar store or at IKEA, which is okay, it's fine. But the ones that we're using cost a little bit more, but they're also a lot more fun to use. So I'm gonna start the paint job with classic Vallejo spray can primers. I'm using a medium brown called leather brown. Then I try to carefully add white in between the different wood beams. It's not simple with the spray can, but at least it gives me a better base to then start painting these parts that are gonna be white later. And here comes a little bit of a history lesson. To those of you who don't know, the turquoise roofs that we see on the fantasy and medieval buildings is not actually a painted turquoise roof. It's actually a copper roof that's been oxidized, very similar to, say, the Statue of Liberty. My plan is to make the roof look as though it started to oxidize but haven't quite turned completely turquoise. So I start off with the Vallejo metal color copper. I'm then going in with a mix of the Green Stuff World and the Vallejo oxide colors. And with that we have a roof that looks like maybe it's been out for 15, 20 years instead of maybe the full 30 that would turn the roof completely turquoise. Back at the painting table, I painted all of the white parts with a mix of the two Vallejo colors, Deck Tan and Medium Gray. Okay, the moss roof I'm really excited about. And I've got this dirty down moss effect color. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm really excited to just dive head first and just add this to the entire roof and see how it looks. When you look at the color, it's a quite dark green, but as it interacts with the air, it's supposed to turn into this mix between like the bright greens and the dark greens that moss naturally have. So I'm hoping just adding a bunch of this is gonna make the roof look like real moss. For the wood beams, I'm using a mix of hardened leather for the midtones. I then go in with dark wood for the shadows. And these two colors combined help me make really nice transitions from dark shadow colors to like a nice medium mid-tone in the center. We're then highlighting the wood parts using some regular acrylic colors. In this case, it's Vallejo Sand Brown and Ivory. I mainly add this to some of the parts that I want to have more focus. As an example, the windows or the doors, because these are the parts I want people to look a little bit extra at. The paint job on the stone parts is really straightforward. We're using the same colors as we did on the whiter parts of the buildings, Deck Tan and Medium Gray, and then just dry brush different parts of the stone with these two different colors. I then want to highlight each of these stones because quite frankly they don't really pop out a lot with just a dry brush. So on just the top part of each one of these rocks I'm going in with the highlight color. In this case it's a mix of ivory and pale flesh. And to bring everything with the paint job together, I like to use pigments. For this paint job, I'm using Vallejo Iron Oxide and Chrome Ox Green. I'm going to use them somewhat moderately in some areas and then add a little bit more in some, but adding this to all of the rocks as well as the building is really going to make everything come together nicely and add more of an atmosphere. Now, grass tufts. Let's just top everything off with a few details. On the original art of these cardboard buildings, there's a few posters on the different houses. So let's make a few wanted posters that we can just add on the different buildings. And of course, let's make a sign for one of the houses to make it look like an inn. And this is one of those steps where you can go nuts. If you have a bits box with old skeletons, maybe add some of those, or maybe you have barrels and food parts. Okay, so with all of the details added, I think we spent a total of 18 hours on the entire build with the painting and the building, which I think is quite fair for what we got from it, but maybe not enough to do it in one sitting. Maybe working a few hours every evening, you can get to a point where you have some houses for your next game. I just want to say thanks to all of the awesome patrons who support this channel every month. Without you guys, I would not have a salary, so I'm super thankful for that. If you want to help out, I put the links to all of that, as well as all of the tools that we use in videos are linked down in the video description. If you cannot support on Patreon, don't worry. Just hitting the subscribe button and liking the videos is way enough. So thank you for doing that. But now I think it's time for a grand reveal. And guys, don't forget to check out Into the AM and all of these awesome looking shirts that I've worn throughout the video. You have the link to that down in the video description. Have a great day. Bye bye.